welcome everyone to this video, which is all about meiosis. So the last video I did was mitosis, and this is meiosis. And you might wonder why I've got a picture up there of an egg and a sperm. So meiosis is all about how the body makes the sex cells, which are the sperm and the egg. Now, just for information, you can see the different size there. So the egg in real life is about the size of a full stop, and the sperm, you would have to look under a microscope to see the sperm. So there's quite a big difference, and that's because the sperm has to travel a long way, so it needs to be small and light. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into meiosis. So the first thing we need to know is a definition for meiosis. So here should be the definition: the splitting of a cell to form gametes. Now, gametes, nice biology word. You could also say sex cells. You could also even say sperm and egg. Okay, but the splitting of a cell to form gametes, which are sex cells. What is a gamete? Well, in animals, in mammals, it's a sperm or an egg. Very, very occasionally, you might get asked about plants. So in a plant, the equivalent to a sperm is pollen, and the equivalent to an egg is an ovule. Okay, so be aware of those, but the main ones that come up are sperm and egg. So, last question here: where are gametes made in humans? So it's really important to remember that a cell, one cell in the testes, will divide to make sperm, and one cell in the ovaries will divide to make an egg in the ovary. Okay, so whereas mitosis was just replacing cells for growth and repair, meiosis, we are forming gametes, we are forming sex cells. Sometimes it asks you what organ provides the cell for sperm. That would be the testes. And what organ provides the cell for the eggs? That would be the ovaries. Okay, so if you need to write any of this down, particularly the definitions, pause the video now and then we go. Okay, so let's look at meiosis in a little bit more detail. So there's a lot of pictures here, and I've got a fancy new pen. That means I can write on the screen, we hope. Hopefully it will come up. Right, so this is our cell, and this will either be, if I can write here, yeah, it will either be in the testes or the ovary, depending whether we're making sperm or whether we're making eggs. So we've got one cell here. Now, this cell has 4 chromosomes. As far as I can tell, an orange one, a red one, a bluey colour one, and then a dark one like a black one. And normally we have 23 pairs or 46. We've, in this diagram, we've got 4 or 2 pairs because it would be impossible to draw. Now, the first thing that has to happen here is that these chromosomes, remember they're only visible just before the cell divides, will double or duplicate. You can see here, here's the word, replication. So then we end up, although they're joined in the middle there, we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chromosomes. Now, we don't want 8 chromosomes in there. So now it's going to divide, and here it divides this way, 4 chromosomes here, and this way 4 chromosomes here. So we've gone from right over here 4 chromosomes to 8 where it's doubled, then it's split, we've got 4 in each. Now, which goes into which of these 2 cells here is completely random. That is a really important word. Okay, so although this one's got the red and I think it's purple, this one's got the orange and the blue, it could have been very different. They could have mixed up in a different way. Now, at the moment we've got too many chromosomes for them to be sperm and egg, so they have to divide a second time. So we get the second division here, and what we end up with is 1, 2, 3, 4 cells, and each of these cells has half the genetic information of this first cell. Okay, so you can see duplication, then one split or division, and then another split or division. Now, what ends up in each of these cells, again, is completely random. They'll probably be all different combinations. If you imagine how many combinations there are with 46 different chromosomes, that's a lot of combinations. So the chances of them ending up the same are very, very, very small. Okay, so this next bit, really important, haploid or diploid. Now, these are the names we give to cells depending on their number of chromosomes. So the way to remember it is this: haploid, going to work now. Oh, sorry. Haploid, is the first two letters of half. Okay, so haploid cells have half the number of normal chromosomes. Diploid cells, on the other hand, have the full set of chromosomes. And it says here, diploid cells have a full set, 23 pairs of chromosomes. Haploid, remember the same as half, have half a set, or 23 chromosomes. So not 23 pairs, just 23. So there's a little task here. We've got to put these four things and decide whether they are haploid or diploid. So pause the video, get a bit of paper and see if you can figure out those four. Right, well done. Hopefully you've had a little go. So let's have a look. Body cells. They are normal cells with a full set. So they are diploid. And hopefully if I press it, it'll go blue. Oh, there we go. These ones here, produced by meiosis. So that'll be a full set because that's just for growth and repair. So that's gone blue, so that's diploid. Produced by meiosis, so that's making sperm and egg, haploid. And if we're talking about sex cells or gametes, haploid, and they've gone red. So the blue and the red here match the blue and the red here. Pause the video if you didn't get them right and you want to jot them down. If you got them right, thumbs up. Brilliant job. Right, let's have a look at an exam question. Okay, so we've got a lot going on here. The diagram shows some of the cell divisions that occur during human reproduction. Now, the first clue, so I'm going to get this in the right place, is this word here. Two words. Human reproduction. We're reproducing, we're making babies, so it's going to be something to do with meiosis. Okay, there might be some mitosis in there as well, but let's go for meiosis. Now, if you're not sure and you can't remember how to spell it, can you see that middle bit, E-I-O? Think of old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Okay, that's how you remember it. There's not many words you have to spell completely correctly in science. In biology, meiosis and mitosis have to be spelled correctly. And I think it's physics, fusion and fission, because they're such similar words, they have to be spelled correctly. So if you're not sure how to spell meiosis, think of old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. Okay, it's the E-I-O we want in the middle. Right, back to the question. I digress. Let's have a look. So we've got a male here and we've got a female here. So before we even look at the question, let's figure out what's going on. So we've got a cell here, A, Now, it divides once and then it divides twice. Because there's two divisions, we know this process is meiosis, and it gives us a little clue here. These cells have got tails. So these are sperm. And if you remember from that, I think it was the second slide, this cell A will be in the testes. Still getting used to this pen, so bear with me. So we've got these four, 1, 2, 3, 4, a sperm along here. Now let's go back to the female. We've got one division, we've got two divisions. So these are eggs. Now in reality, although women make 4 eggs here, only 1 matures, because if 4 matured, everyone would have quadruplets, and we don't want that going on. So 1 matures, and then the other 3 tend to just dissolve and lay dormant, but meiosis does make 4 of them. Okay, so if we go up here, back to B, this one was a cell in the testes. So because this is making eggs, this is going to be a cell in the ovary. Okay, so now we know that C is a sperm and D is an egg. Now they're joining together here, and I'm not sure if you can remember the name of that process when a sperm and an egg join. I have to say it with a country accent. Fertilization. Okay, you might think I'm mad, but at least you remember. So when that sperm and the egg meet here, it's then fertilized, and we have this one cell which divides into 2, which then divides into 4. So this bit here is actually mitosis, because it's dividing, just replicating itself. And all these bits at the top are meiosis, because they're making sperm here, C, and an egg here, D. Right, we've got all that from that information. We haven't even looked at the question yet. So we're going to have a look at the question. I might have to flip back to this slide, which you probably realise you have to do a lot of in exams, and see what's going on. So on to the next slide, let's see what the question is. Right, so the first question, name the type of cell division that produces cell D from cell B. Okay, so let's go back and have a look. Cell D, which is here, from cell B, and it wants the cell division, so it's either going to be meiosis or mitosis. Do you know? Have a guess? It's meiosis, because we're making eggs. So the answer to this question, if I can get it there, M-E-I-O-S-I-S, meiosis. Which organ in the male body produces cell C from cell A? Right, cell C from cell A, and it says which organ. Can you remember where this is happening? It's happening in the testes, and testes are an organ. So testes, that is plural. This is singular. Testis, please don't write testicles, examiners don't like it. Testes or testis. Right, next question, B, part 1. Cells A and B each contain 46 chromosomes. They do. How many chromosomes would there be in the nucleus of cell C? Okay, let's jump back. Right, C is here. C is a sperm. So it's haploid, it's going to have half of the genetic information. So if A has 46, this is going to have 23. So let's go back and write that in. 23. The only cells in the human body that have 23 are a sperm or an egg. So if there's anything to do with sperm or eggs, it'll be 23 chromosomes. Okay, one more little bit here. Why is it important that cell C has that number of chromosomes? Well, I can remember now that cell C is actually the sperm cell. Now, why is it important? So, if you imagine a sperm with 23 and an egg with 23, and they're going to join together in that fertilization. Okay. If it didn't have 23 and it had 46, and this one had 40, the egg had 46, what would happen is this one would have, how many is that? 92. Well, that's no good. You can't build a human body on 92 chromosomes because it's double the amount we need. So to answer this question, we need a few keywords. Why is it important that cell C has this number of chromosomes? Right, there's a keyword here. So, during fertilization, that's our first keyword there. The chromosomes join to make 46, which is diploid. Okay, so during fertilization, the chromosomes join to make 46, which is diploid. Write chromosomes there if you want. Okay, it's easier to put it that way and state the facts than try and do the reverse and say, well, if there wasn't this many, there'd be this many. 23 and 23 makes 46. Must mention fertilization, must mention the 46. Okay, very well done if you got that far. We've got one more bit to do, and that's looking at the differences and the similarities between mitosis and meiosis. Okay, so just before we go on to the next slide, what I'd like you to think about is any differences between meiosis and mitosis. So pause the video now and see if you can jot any down. Okay, let's have a go, see what we can do. Right, so we're going to start with the differences. So here, differences. Right, let's go over to here to mitosis. One cell division, one cell division, two diploid cells. So the cells are diploid, just like the parent cell, and they produce identical daughter cells. So the two cells that are made are identical. Right, meiosis, two cell divisions, remember it divides twice, produce 4 cells which are haploid, so that's half the genetic information, and the cells that they produce are non-identical cells. Now, sometimes this will be 2 marks, it will be 1 difference, it can be up to 3 differences. But just remember, if they ask for a difference, you have to compare, be comparative, which is very confusing. What it means is you have to say meiosis has 2 cell divisions, whereas mitosis has 1 cell division. That would be 1 mark. Meiosis produces 4 cells. Mitosis produces 2 cells. Meiosis produces haploid cells. Mitosis produces diploid cells. Meiosis produces non-identical cells, and mitosis produces identical daughter cells. Okay, so it has to compare to get the mark. So that is all our differences. And then our similarities, we haven't got quite so many. They both duplicate the chromosomes, which is good. Even though meiosis has an extra division, they both divide. They both duplicate the chromosomes, so they double the chromosomes. And this one here, they're both cell division, so they both divide. Now, this comes up a lot. It's important. Sometimes it's tick boxes, sometimes it's writing. But if you're not sure, you don't know them, jot down the differences and the similarities. If you got some of them, well done, because they're hard to get, but we need to learn those. Okay, pause the video if you want to jot them down. Right, let's go on to the next bit. So this question is the type of question that might come up. There are two types of cell division, mitosis and meiosis. Describe three differences between the processes of mitosis and meiosis. Now, if you copy down that previous slide, or you remember that previous slide, this should be no problem, other than you have to remember it's comparative. So you have to remember meiosis, blah, 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 but mitosis, blah, blah, blah. Now, rather than me writing it all out, because that would be quite a lot, pause the video, see how many you can remember, and then we'll go through the mark scheme. Right, well done. Hopefully you remembered some of those without having to look back. But let's have a look at the mark scheme here, so that we know exactly what the examiner wants. So it's any three from these. So the first one, mitosis produces two cells. Now anything that's in brackets is not essential to get the mark, but it just makes it make a little bit more sense. So mitosis produces two cells, but meiosis produces four cells. See, their answers must be comparative. They must compare to each other. Okay, one cell division in mitosis, but two cell divisions in meiosis. That's 2 marks. One for that one, one for that one. Last one. Mitosis produces cells with 2 of each chromosome, but let's do that again. Mitosis produces cells with 2 of each chromosome, but meiosis produces cells with 1 of each chromosome. Now that to me is very confusing, but if we look down here, we could have any of these options, and I bet you've got one of these. Allow mitosis produces diploid cells, but meiosis produces haploid cells. That would be my favourite one here. Okay, or you can talk about the number of chromosomes being halved, the mass of DNA is halved, genetic material is halved. You can say mitosis produces cells with 23 pairs or 46, but meiosis produces cells with 23 chromosomes. I think the easiest one is haploid and diploid. Okay, so hopefully you got some of those. Now, I can 100% guarantee that in your biology exam in the summer, there will be mitosis, meiosis, maybe both, but it will come up in one form or another. Sometimes meiosis comes up with reproduction, sometimes it comes up with cells, sometimes it comes up in the genetic topic, okay? But it can come up anywhere and you're pretty much guaranteed. So hopefully that's made it make a bit more sense. Well done, and I shall see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.